My sister always took the wheel, even when I was dying in the back seat. I remember the leather smell first, the sting of expensive perfume, the faint vibration of tires on asphalt beneath us, and then the sound, twisting metal, screeching brakes, a scream that might have been mine, or hers, and finally, silence. You'd think, in the moment before death, your life flashes before your eyes. Mine didn't. All I saw was her hand on the steering wheel, manicured, perfect, still in control, even then. Especially then. Her name was Savannah, my twin. We shared a face but not a life. I woke to sterile white light. Cold air pricked at my arms. The sharp scent of antiseptic clung to my throat. My head throbbed like someone had pounded a drum inside my skull. I blinked slowly. There were soft voices, distant footsteps, the beep of machines, then the click of heels. A nurse leaned over me with a too bright smile. "Oh, Miss Savannah, you're awake." She squeezed my hand. "You scared us. But you're okay now. You're safe." Savannah. She called me Savannah. My lips parted, but nothing came out. My voice felt like it belonged to someone else. Dry, foreign, thin. I looked down. My hands were bandaged, but slender. No bruises on the knuckles. No scar on my right wrist, the one I'd had since I was 10. Where was my scar? I turned my head. Slowly. The room swam. On the table beside me, a phone. A pitcher of water. A mirror. I reached for it with trembling fingers. The face that stared back wasn't mine, and yet it was. High cheekbones, perfectly symmetrical features, long lashes, light freckle on the left cheek, but the expression, the confusion, the panic, that was me, Savannah. No. No, no, no. What is this? What is happening? Can you hear me? The nurse asked gently. I nodded too quickly. Yes, I whispered. My voice cracked. Do you remember what happened? My breath caught. My mind screamed, no, but my mouth said, yes. I remember. A sting shot through my wrist, like it had been sliced by a hot wire. I flinched. Looking down, I saw it red, thin, angry. A scar. One that hadn't been there a moment ago. The nurse adjusted my fourth. You're lucky. The accident could have been so much worse. Accident. That word rang in my skull like a cruel joke. I'll let the doctor know you're awake. Your fiancé has been waiting. Fiancé? Savannah had a fiancé? Since when? The nurse walked away, leaving the door open behind her. I sat up slowly, nausea twisting in my gut. The room spun for a second, and then steadied. My legs were weak, but they moved. I shuffled toward the mirror again, bigger this time, full length. There she was. I was wearing her skin. Not metaphorically. Not in some dramatic way that people say when they envy their sibling. I was literally wearing Savannah's face. Her body. Her life. The hospital gown hung loosely off sharp collarbones. My blonde hair was longer than I remembered. It was hers. My shoulders were narrower. I looked too perfect. It hit me like cold water. I was dead. The real me. Celine, the sister in the back seat. Gone. And I had woken up in her place. I stood still, heart hammering. My sister had stolen everything from me when I was alive. My spotlight, my modeling contract, my fiancé. And now? Now I had her life. My mouth curled slightly. Maybe it's my turn now. But then I looked at my wrist again. At the fresh scar, still red, still throbbing. A warning. For what? For lying. My heart dropped. Was this a dream? A punishment? A second chance? Or a curse? I didn't know, but I knew one thing. I wasn't Savannah, and I couldn't keep pretending forever. The driver dropped me off in front of a tall glass building downtown, the kind of place with a name instead of an address. The Elysian? Of course. Savannah would live in a place like this, where the lobby smelled like designer perfume and ambition, and everyone looked like they belonged in a magazine. I didn't recognize the doorman, but he greeted me warmly. "Welcome back, Miss Carter." Carter. Her last name. Our last name. Still foreign to me. I smiled, faint, automatic. "Thank you." Inside the elevator, my reflection stared back at me from mirrored walls. I looked like a stranger dressed in perfection. Glossy hair, flawless skin, spine too straight. Savannah always walked like people were watching, even when they weren't. The penthouse was on the 27th floor. The keycard buzzed, and the doors slid open to reveal her world. White marble floors, pale beige furniture, gold trim, minimalist, cold, beautiful. No family photos, no clutter, no life, just elegance. It wasn't a home, it was a stage. I walked through the room slowly, as if she might jump out at me. But there was no one, only silence. In the bedroom, I found a walk-in closet the size of my old apartment. Color-coded dresses, heels lined like soldiers, perfume bottles I couldn't name. I opened a drawer. Inside were letters, neatly stacked. Some addressed to Savannah, others unsigned. One was torn in half. I didn't read them. Not yet. In the nightstand, I found a photo in a silver frame. 2 girls. Us. Laughing on the beach when we were 12. I looked younger in that picture. Full of life. She was already posing. I placed it face down. The knock came around 7 p.m. sharp. 3 times. Precise. Like a man who hated waiting. I opened the door. And froze. He was tall. Clean cut. Ice in his gaze. Tailored black suit. Steel gray eyes that looked like they could read you in seconds, and tear you apart the next. "Savannah," he said slowly, as if testing the word. "You took your time." I swallowed. "I just got home." His eyes narrowed. "Did you?" He stepped inside without asking. The scent of something dark and expensive followed him, like storms and secrets. "I was expecting a call," he said, pacing the living room like it was his. "You don't disappear on me." I didn't answer. He turned, finally looking at me fully. "You look different." My heart skipped. Head trauma," I stammered. "I'm still a little out of it." He smiled, but it didn't reach his eyes. "Is that so?" He stepped closer. Too close. "I know when you lie," he whispered. His voice was soft, deadly. I stared at him, trying not to flinch. "And I know when you're afraid." He brushed a strand of hair behind my ear, his fingers cool against my skin. "Are you?" I didn't answer. He stepped back, gaze lingering. "We'll talk soon. Don't keep me waiting again." With that, he left, just as quietly as he came. My legs gave out the moment the door clicked shut. I curled up on the couch, pulling a cashmere throw over my legs. It smelled like her perfume, lavender and smoke. Who was he? Savannah's boyfriend? Her boss? Her keeper? Whoever Damon was, one thing was clear. He was used to owning her. And now he thought he owned me. The next morning, the building concierge buzzed. "Mr. Leonardo Wells is here to see you. Should I send him up?" Leo? I hadn't heard that name out loud in over a year. My heart thudded. I hesitated. "Yes," I said, barely above a whisper. When the elevator doors opened, I felt like I'd been kicked in the chest. Leo stepped out in a navy sweater and jeans, looking like a walking memory. Dark tousled hair, soft brown eyes. Smile hesitant and heartbreakingly familiar. "Savannah," he said, then paused. "You look..." He didn't finish. I forced a smile. "Hey, Leo." He stared. "You cut your hair?" I shook my head. "It's been like this." He looked confused. "Right. I guess I haven't seen you in a while." He walked in slowly, his eyes scanning the apartment. You redecorated? I shrugged. Felt like a change. He sat on the armrest of the couch, watching me too closely. You're different, he said. I looked down. Different bad? No. He said quietly. Different. Like someone I used to know. The air shifted. Something too fragile to name passed between us. I should go, he said suddenly, standing. I followed him to the elevator. He hesitated at the door. Take care of yourself, Savannah. And then he added, barely audible, or whoever you are now. The doors closed, and I stood there, pulse racing, stomach hollow. Leo saw something, felt something, and Damon suspected everything. Living Savannah's life wasn't going to be easy, especially if it never really belonged to her in the first place. I tried. For 3 days, I tried to be Savannah. I learned how she stirred her coffee, 3 times clockwise, 1 counterclockwise. I mimicked the way she answered texts, short, direct, no emojis. I even watched old video interviews to perfect her laugh. But pretending to be someone you know is harder than pretending to be someone you don't. Everywhere I went, I was met with raised eyebrows and polite confusion, like I was Savannah's ghost, or worse, her imposter. Friday morning, I got a call from someone named Meredith. Brunch at 11. Don't be late again, she snapped, then hung up. I found her and 2 others, Kara and Janine, waiting at a sun-drenched corner table in a rooftop cafe that overlooked the city skyline. All 3 looked like they'd walked out of a fashion campaign. Savannah's friends. Or her audience. You look tired, Kara said, sipping an overpriced mimosa. I had a rough week. Car crash will do that, Janine said too sweetly. But we're so glad you're okay. Honestly, we were shocked. Yeah, Meredith added. You're different. Softer. They looked at me like I was a dog that had suddenly started meowing. I forced a smile. Maybe I hit my head too hard. Kara laughed. You've stopped correcting us. Savannah would never let us get away with teasing. Maybe I should have all along, I said quietly. They blinked at me. I knew Savannah had been the queen bee in this group. Sharp, dominant, always leading. Now I was stumbling through her territory barefoot. When brunch ended, Kara leaned in for a hug. You're not coming to Alyssa's party tomorrow night? I have plans, I lied. They exchanged looks. Sure you do, Meredith said, already bored. Back in the lobby of Savannah's building, the security guard nodded at me. Evening, Miss Carter. Heading to the gym? I paused. I didn't know where else Savannah went at 6 p.m., and I didn't want questions. Yes, I lied. Brought my swimsuit? He smiled and scanned my ID. Pool's quiet today. Enjoy? I nodded and stepped into the elevator, heart pounding. The moment the doors slid shut, a searing heat pulsed down my thigh. I gasped and looked down. A fresh, angry line bloomed on my skin just above the knee. Crimson, thin, like someone had traced fire across my flesh. Another lie. Another scar. I pressed my back against the elevator wall, gripping the railing. Why is this happening? Why do lies carve into me like knives? Why me? The elevator opened. I didn't go to the pool. I went straight to the apartment, locked the door, and dropped everything. Then I walked into the bathroom. The mirror stretched across the entire wall. Polished, perfect, unforgiving. I stood in front of it, still wearing Savannah's dress from brunch. Cream silk, gold earrings, bare feet. I stared. This face. It was flawless. Not a freckle out of place. Hair curled just right. Skin unblemished, except where the new scar peeked beneath the hem of the dress. But something was wrong. The eyes. Savannah's had always been sharp, cold like her ambitions. The ones in the mirror? Wide, frightened, cracked. Mine. My reflection blinked with me, mimicked my breathing. But it didn't feel real. It felt like a mask that didn't quite fit. I pressed my palm to the glass. I don't belong here, I whispered. Silence. No answer. No magical moment. No flicker of truth. Just me, pretending. I slid to the floor and pulled my knees to my chest. The scar on my leg throbbed in time with my heartbeat. I couldn't keep this up. One more lie, one more fake smile, and this body might bleed out my soul entirely. I stayed there for a long time. Eventually I stood, washed my face, and looked in the mirror one last time. Then I said it out loud, just to hear the truth in the room. I'm not Savannah. The mirror didn't shatter. But for the first time, it didn't lie back at me. Leo texted that morning. Walk by the pier? Noon. Just us. I stared at the message longer than I should have. I told myself it was curiosity. It wasn't. The air by the water was warm, tinged with salt, and the distant sound of seagulls. The pier stretched into the horizon like a path that led nowhere, but it felt like a place where you could breathe without permission. Leo waited near a bench, hands in his pockets, sunglasses shading his eyes. He turned when he saw me and smiled. Not the polite, stiff smile he gave Savannah. This one was softer, familiar, dangerous. Glad you came, he said, offering his arm like he used to. I hesitated for only a second before looping mine through his. The gesture felt too natural, too much like us. We walked in silence at first. He talked about the architecture of the new buildings, the ones going up near the marina. He pointed out a boat he wanted to restore one day. I nodded, half listening, half sinking into the way his voice curled around certain words. He always had a way of making boring things sound beautiful. Then suddenly he said, "You even walk like her now." My heart skipped. Who? He glanced at me, surprised. Celine. I laughed too quickly. That's a weird thing to say. He smiled faintly. Yeah. I guess it is. I turned toward the water. She was always more graceful. Savannah, he said. You don't talk about her. Ever. I paused. That was true. Savannah never talked about me. Maybe she didn't need to. I don't miss her, I said. A lie. The moment the words left my mouth, a jolt of pain flared across my collarbone. Sharp, hot, angry. I winced. Leo looked at me. You okay? Yeah, just sunburn. I lied again, even though I knew better now. I wanted to tell him, not everything, just enough, that I was Celine, that I remembered the night he kissed my forehead and promised forever, that I still remembered how his heartbeat felt against mine. But how do you explain waking up in your sister's skin? Instead, I asked, do you think people can change? Like, really change? He looked ahead. Maybe. Or maybe they just show parts of themselves they were always hiding. I swallowed. Why? Because you've changed, he said simply. And not in a bad way. He stopped walking. I followed his gaze to the water. Boats rocked gently in their slips. The sun caught in his hair like gold. You used to be colder. Sharper. I don't mean that as an insult, he added quickly. It's just, now it's like you're breathing different air. I wanted to say, that's because I'm not her. Instead, I said nothing. He looked at me again, eyes softer now. You know, she used to hate this place, said it smelled like fish and regret. I smiled. Maybe I'm learning to like regret. He laughed. A short, quiet sound. And for a moment, we were just two people walking under the sun. Not ghosts, not imposters, just us. As we neared the end of the pier, he slowed. The breeze tousled my hair. The silence between us became a question we didn't ask. He turned to me. There's something about you lately, he said. Something I can't explain. I looked up. Our faces were close, closer than they should have been. His breath hitched. I feel like I'm seeing someone I lost, he whispered. And it terrifies me. My chest tightened. Why? Because I never stopped missing her. I closed my eyes. For a second, I leaned in. Then I stepped back. I should go, I murmured. Leo didn't stop me. He just stood there, hands clenched, like if he reached out something would break. Back in the penthouse, I peeled off my dress and walked to the mirror. There it was, across my collarbone, a dark, jagged line, a scar that hadn't been there this morning, a reminder of the lie I told, and the truth I couldn't bear to say. The phone had been sitting on the dresser since I came home from the hospital. I hadn't dared to touch it, not really. I scrolled through texts in front of other people, answered calls when I had to. But I hadn't looked. Not deeply. I told myself it was self-preservation, but really, it was fear. What would I find if I peeled back the perfect surface of Savannah's life? I already knew it wasn't what it seemed, and I wasn't sure I wanted proof, but tonight, I couldn't stop myself. I sat cross-legged on the floor beside the bed, her phone in my lap. My heart pounded like I was breaking into a stranger's diary. In a way, I was. Her passcode was still the same as mine used to be, our shared birthday, 0927. She hadn't changed it. Had she ever wanted to shut me out? The home screen lit up. Messages, emails, missed calls. I opened the Messages app. Dozens of threads. I skipped over names I didn't recognize. Until I saw one that simply read, D, no emoji, no last name, just a single letter. Damon. I tapped. D, you're ignoring me again. D, bad habit. I told you what happens when you disappear. D, I don't like being tested. D, you're mine. Don't forget that. The messages were spaced out over days, even weeks. Some were time-stamped after midnight, others came minutes apart. I scrolled back. There were times she pushed back, short answers, delays in replies, then bursts of apologies, but he always reeled her in. Savannah, please stop texting me like this. I need space. D, no, you need direction, and I'm the only one who's ever given it to you. My stomach turned. He wasn't just possessive. He was consuming her. I kept scrolling. There were no sweet texts. No, I misuse. Just control. Anger. Ownership. D, you think Leo will love you after what you did? He still looks at Celine like she hung the stars. D, I'm the only one who sees you, Savannah. The real you. The one even your sister ignored. D, you're mine. Whether you like it or not. I dropped the phone for a second. My hands were shaking. How long had she lived like this? How many times had I looked at her and only seen the perfect shell she projected? I picked up the phone again, went into notes. Maybe I was looking for a clue, a confession. There was a folder called Unsent. Inside, a single note. It was dated 2 weeks before the accident. Celine, if you're reading this, it means something went wrong, or maybe I finally found the courage to let you see me. The real me. I'm tired, see? Tired of pretending to be better than I am. Tired of being the one who always smiles harder. You think I took your life, but I promise. It never felt like mine either. You were always the bright one, the brave one. But no one saw me until I started acting like you. I didn't mean to take everything. I just wanted something of my own. A life that didn't feel like I was watching it from behind glass. I'm sorry. I really am. Savannah. I read it twice. Then 3 times. By the 4th, I couldn't hold back the tears. They came in waves, hot, silent, angry. And then, sorrowful. All this time, I thought she was the thief, the golden twin, the one who won by default. But maybe she was just surviving, trying to find a place where she could exist. And the truth hit me like a knife. I never really saw her either. I curled up on the floor with the phone clutched to my chest. I wasn't just living her life now, I was carrying her secrets. And for the first time since I woke up in this body, I didn't feel victorious. I felt hollow, Because maybe this wasn't a second chance. Maybe it was a reckoning. It started with dizziness. I was walking through the hallway after brushing off a neighbor's question, "Did you enjoy the pool yesterday?" with a tight smile and a lie. Yes, it was lovely. 2 steps later, the hallway tilted. The ground felt like water under my feet. I steadied myself on the wall, blinking hard. Just tired, I thought. But by the next morning, it wasn't just dizziness. It was pain. Burning under the skin. Dozens of tiny, pulsing aches like someone had stitched barbed wire into my flesh. I stood in front of the bathroom mirror and pulled off my shirt. The scars were everywhere. Faint at first, like faded ink, but then darker. Some were jagged. Others were thin and clean, like paper cuts. All of them were new. None of them were mine. I sank to the floor. I couldn't lie anymore, not without paying for it in blood. I didn't know what else to do. So I called the one person I hadn't spoken to since waking up in this borrowed life. Dr. Miles, family therapist, former counselor, one of the few people who had known both Savannah and me since childhood. He'd seen us fight. Seen us pretend. Maybe he could see this too. His office was in a quiet building tucked behind a bookstore downtown. The waiting room smelled like lavender and old pages. He greeted me in his usual calm, unshaken tone. "Savannah," he said with a gentle nod. "You look tired." I sat down on the soft gray couch. "I've had a rough few weeks." He studied me with eyes that had seen too much. "You're not here for therapy, are you?" "No," I admitted. "Not exactly." A pause. Then he asked, carefully, "Do you remember how we used to talk about masks?" I nodded slowly. "And how sometimes people wear them for so long, they forget what's underneath." I met his gaze. What if I was never the one wearing it in the first place? He didn't blink. "What are you trying to tell me?" I swallowed. "I think I'm living someone else's life," I said quietly. "And I think it's killing me." Silence settled between us like fog. Then he leaned forward, elbows on his knees. "There's a myth," he said slowly, "that I once heard from a woman in Korea. She said some souls are given second lives, not to start over but to carry out unfinished truths." I didn't move. "She said those souls can't lie," he continued, "not without consequence, because their bodies remember what their mouths try to forget." My breath caught. "Scars," he nodded. "Each lie carves deeper, until either the truth sets them free, or the body gives out." I looked down at my hands, at the faint red line crossing my palm. "What happens if they start telling the truth?" His eyes softened. "Then the body begins to forgive." I didn't mean to say it, but the words poured out before I could stop them. "I'm scared," I whispered. "Every minute. I wake up and I don't know who I'm supposed to be. I miss myself, but she's gone. And I don't even know if anyone would believe me if I said the truth." Tears burned hot behind my eyes. "I feel like a ghost with someone else's skin." "Doctor." Miles sat back, quiet. Then, finally, he said, "That's the first real thing you've said since you walked in." And just like that, something shifted. A warmth pulsed across my shoulder. I blinked and pulled the collar of my shirt down. One of the older scars, one I'd traced over a dozen times, was gone, vanished, as if it had never existed. I left his office 30 minutes later, shaken but lighter. The sky outside was still gray, but something inside me had cleared. I didn't know all the rules yet. I didn't know how many lies I had left before my body gave out entirely. But I knew this. Truth could heal me. And for the first time since I woke up in Savannah's skin, I had a reason to try. He came at night. No warning, no call, just a soft click of the penthouse door unlocking, followed by the quiet sound of leather soles on marble. I was in the kitchen, barefoot in one of Savannah's silk robes, pouring tea I wouldn't drink. When I heard the door, every muscle in my body went still. Then I saw him. Damon, tall, precise, dressed in black like the shadow he'd always been. The city lights behind him cut sharp lines across his face, angles of control and calculation. "You shouldn't leave the door on the old code," he said calmly, like we were discussing something domestic. "Bad habit." I set the teacup down, hands shaking. "Get out," I said. He tilted his head. "You sound different." I didn't answer. He stepped closer. "You are different." Silence stretched like a taut wire between us. Then, he smiled. Not charming, not warm. The kind of smile wolves give before they lunge. "I knew it the second I saw you at the hospital," he said. "You tried to walk like her, talk like her. But your eyes..." He leaned in slightly. "They've always told on you." I forced my voice to stay steady. "Then you know this isn't your game anymore." "Oh, I don't care who you are, sweetheart," he said softly. "Celine, Savannah, a ghost, a liar, doesn't matter. What matters is this face still opens doors, this body still signs contracts. And you, whatever you are still living under my thumb. I'm not afraid of you," I whispered. He chuckled, low and quiet. "You should be..." I stepped back. "If you know I'm not Savannah, then you also know I don't owe you anything." His eyes darkened. "No, but you owe her, don't you?" My throat closed. "You think she was a victim?" he asked, walking slowly around the kitchen island like a predator circling prey. "She played the game. She made deals. She came back, even when she hated herself for it. I'm not her," I said again. "No," he agreed. "She was smarter." I clenched my fists. He looked around the apartment like he owned it. "If you try to run, I will expose you." Imagine what Leo would say, or the press. Twin fraud's sister's identity, lives in her home, seduces her ex. Sounds dramatic. People love drama. My jaw tightened. "Do it?" He blinked. "Tell them. Tell everyone. Let's burn it all down together." His expression shifted just slightly, enough to let me know I'd surprised him. And then, voice like a blade. "You don't want to play chicken with a man who's already crashed." My heart stilled. And then he said it, quiet, almost casual. "Not every set of brakes works the way it should, you know." The words hung in the air like smoke. I stared at him. "What did you say?" He smiled. Just speaking hypothetically. No, he wasn't. That crash. That night, Savannah was driving. I was in the back seat, and the brakes had failed. Had he... My stomach twisted. "You think you're clever," I said, voice raw. "But if you hurt her, if you had anything to do with what happened..." "She came to me," he snapped, finally losing a fraction of control. "She chose me because you made her believe no one else would," I hissed. He stared at me, his breath shallow, his composure slipping for just a second too long. Then, just like that, it returned. The calm, the cold. "I'll give you one chance," he said. "Keep playing her part. Keep the mask on. And I'll keep your little lie safe. And if I don't..." His smile was a slow, dangerous thing. "I start unraveling your lovely second life thread by thread." When the door shut behind him, I dropped to the floor. The tile was cold against my knees. My hands were shaking. Damon knew. About me. About the crash. And maybe more than I ever wanted to imagine. But he made one mistake. He thought fear would keep me caged. It wouldn't. If he wanted war, he just got it. Leo's text came late in the afternoon. "I want to show you something. Meet me on Holloway Drive at 5. No explanation. Just coordinates of a memory. When the car pulled up, I almost couldn't breathe. The house was exactly as we'd imagined it years ago. White porch, ivy climbing the columns, large oak tree shading the yard. It had been a fantasy, a someday home we designed on napkins between kisses. And now, it stood in front of me, real, solid, silent. Leo stood at the gate, hands in his pockets, watching me like he already knew he was about to say too much. "I bought it last month," he said softly. "Thought you'd want to see it." "You mean Savannah," I corrected. He blinked. "Right. Of course." We stepped inside. It smelled like new paint and memory. The rooms were mostly empty, but echoes lingered in the corners, dreams we'd once whispered in the dark. He led me into the sunroom. Light streamed through tall windows, falling in slanted golden lines across the floor. "This room gets the best morning light," he said. "You always said you'd put your easel here, remember?" I froze. "Savannah never painted." "I did." "You said," he continued, "that you wanted a view that changed with the seasons. You said it made you feel like time was something beautiful, not something chasing you." My throat closed. I turned away, gripping the edge of the window frame. "You're remembering wrong." "No," he said quietly. "I don't think I am." We moved to the kitchen. It was still half renovated, the counters covered in plans and tile samples. Leo picked up a chipped mug. "Still haven't replaced this one," he said with a smile. "Guess I'm sentimental." He handed it to me. There, on the side, was the stupid joke I'd made up once, about coffee being the only man who never disappointed me. Only I had ever said that. Savannah had rolled her eyes every time. I looked up. Leo was staring at me. His voice dropped. "It's you." I panicked. "No." "You're confused." He stepped closer. "You even smile like her now. The way you used to when you were trying to hide something." "Leo." He reached out, gently brushing my hair back. His fingers hovered at the base of my neck, right where the skin felt raw from the newest scar. "I don't know how, but I know it's you." His voice was barely above a whisper. "Celine." That name, spoken like a prayer, like a truth. Tears stung my eyes. I couldn't say it. Not yet. Not here. The moment felt too fragile, too bright, so I did the one thing I knew would hurt us both. I lied. "No, Leo. I'm not her." He stepped back like I'd struck him. The air between us cracked open. "I'm sorry," I said quickly. "I didn't mean to." But he was already turning away. "Forget it," he said, voice tight. I thought I saw something that wasn't there. He didn't wait for me to follow him out. I stumbled into the guest bathroom and locked the door. My hands were shaking as I pulled the collar of my sweater down. The scar was there, red and sharp, circling the base of my neck like a collar. A punishment for the lie, or maybe a reminder of the truth I refused to give. I looked in the mirror. I didn't recognize the woman staring back. Not Savannah. Not me. Just someone who kept breaking things she loved. And the worst part? She was starting to believe she deserved it. I stood in front of Leo's door for a full 5 minutes before I knocked. My hands were cold. My legs felt like they belonged to someone else, but I knew I couldn't run anymore. Not from him. Not from myself. He opened the door slower than usual, like he half expected to find no one on the other side. When he saw me, he didn't speak. Just stepped back, silently letting me in. The house was dim, the light from the street casting long shadows across the floor. He wore a soft gray hoodie and jeans. Barefoot, vulnerable. He waited until I turned toward him. Then he asked, voice quiet but sharp, "Why did you lie?" I looked at him, heart hammering, and said the words I had been dying to say for what felt like an eternity. Because the truth sounds insane. He didn't move. I took a breath. "Leo." "I died." He flinched, just slightly. I was in the car with Savannah. I was in the back seat. I remember the sound of the crash. I remember darkness. His brows furrowed, but he didn't interrupt. And then I woke up. In her body, with her voice, in her life. My voice cracked. I don't know how. I don't know why. But I swear to you, Leo, I'm Celine. Silence fell like snow. Soft, heavy, endless. He stared at me for a long time, and I braced myself for disbelief. For laughter. For the sound of the door closing behind me forever. But instead, he whispered, "I know." I blinked. "What?" "I knew," he said. I didn't want to. I tried to convince myself I was just projecting. Missing you too much. Seeing what I wanted to see. He stepped closer. "But it wasn't just how you smiled, or what you said. It was how I felt. Like something in me finally clicked back into place. Like I could breathe again." Tears slipped down my cheeks. He reached out, fingers grazing my jaw. "You're not a lie, Celine. You never were." I broke. I stepped into him, and he caught me like he'd been waiting to all this time. Our lips met in a kiss that wasn't soft or tentative. It was aching. It was real. And in that moment, the room around us faded. The past didn't matter. The lies didn't matter. Only us. Only this. Later, curled against his chest, I felt something shift inside me. A warmth. A release. And when I finally gathered the strength to look, the scars were gone. Every mark that had carved itself into my body, the thin ones, the deep ones, even the cruel red band around my neck, vanished. As if they'd never existed. As if love had erased every lie with a single truth. I gasped, touching my now clear skin. Leo looked down at me. "What is it?" I smiled, breathless. "Nothing. Just everything." His phone buzzed. He reached for it, saw the caller ID, and frowned. "Unknown number." A chill ran down my spine. "Don't answer," I said quickly. Too late. He pressed accept, and Damon's voice filled the room. "You think I won't burn it all down?" Leo stiffened. I leaned forward, pressing my ear close. "You've been busy, sweetheart," Damon said. "Telling stories. Playing house. I hope you're enjoying your little fantasy." Leo opened his mouth, but I took the phone from him. "It's not a fantasy anymore," I said calmly. "It's real, and you don't get to control it." He laughed. Low. Cold. "You're making a mistake, Celine. I still have the power to—" "No," I cut in. "You had power. Until I stopped being afraid of you." There was silence. Then a click. The call ended. Leo exhaled. "That was him?" I nodded. "He knows everything. And now he knows I'm not alone." Leo wrapped his arms around me tighter. "Let him come," he said. "Let him try." And for the first time since I woke up in Savannah's body, I believed it. I recorded the video at dawn. No makeup. No filters. Just me, sitting on Savannah's balcony with the city yawning awake behind me. The phone trembled in my hand, but I didn't stop. "My name is Celine Carter," I began, voice soft but steady. "I know what I'm about to say will sound unbelievable." "That's okay. I wouldn't believe me either." I inhaled deeply. "A few weeks ago I died. There was a crash. I was in the backseat of my twin sister's car." A pause. The morning breeze brushed my skin like a hand on my shoulder. When I woke up, I was in her body. I didn't cry this time. I looked right into the camera. Savannah had secrets, and I found them all. But she also had pain. She wasn't the villain I painted her to be. She was trying to survive, just like I am now. I swallowed the knot in my throat. This life, her life, was built on lies, mine, hers, other people's. But I'm not lying anymore. I leaned closer to the screen, every word a release. I don't know why I got this second chance. But I do know one thing. I won't waste it pretending to be someone I'm not. A long silence. Then, "My name is Celine. I died. But I'm still here. And this is my story." I clicked post, and the world, for a moment, held its breath. The reaction was chaos. People thought it was a performance piece, a social experiment, a psychological breakdown, a hoax. But then the letters started coming in. Women who felt like ghosts in their own lives. Twins who hadn't spoken in years. People who'd faked smiles for so long they forgot what real ones felt like. And slowly, strangely, Support grew. Not everyone believed me. Not everyone needed to. But enough did. Enough to make me feel like I wasn't screaming into a void anymore. Damon tried. He leaked emails, texts, threats wrapped in charm, but Leo had already hired a lawyer, and I had already stopped hiding. Nothing he threw at us stuck, because the truth finally was louder than his lies. Weeks passed. The apartment no longer felt like Savannah's. I changed the curtains, filled the shelves with secondhand books, started painting again, badly but freely. I visited Dr. Miles every Tuesday. Leo stayed every weekend. The scars never returned. And one morning, I looked in the mirror and saw someone I recognized. I was brushing my hair in the bathroom when Leo came up behind me. He wrapped his arms around my waist, resting his chin on my shoulder. We stood there for a moment, reflected together. His warmth pressed into my back, steady and real. "You look peaceful," he said. "I am." He met my eyes in the mirror. "Do you miss her?" I thought about that. "I miss the chance to really know her," I admitted. "But I think part of her is still with me." He nodded. "Maybe the best part." I smiled. And for once, the woman in the mirror smiled back. Not like Savannah, not like the Celine I used to be, but like someone whole, someone finally home. I turned off the bathroom light and leaned into him, his arms tightening around me. And in that quiet golden moment, I whispered the truth. Not for him, not for anyone else, but for me. I'm not living someone else's life. I paused, breathing in. I just took mine back.